YouTube, petey twofinger here. I'm going to be talking about building a bass amp. I have a video that I still get comments on from time to time, and it's kind of an older video, and I went through a few different models of building amplifiers. Specifically, the bass amp rig has changed quite a bit since that initial video, which I'm not going to remove it. I really like that video. There's some funny stories in there, but this is going to be a long and challenging video, as would be the process of attempting to build a bass amp on a budget. And I'll kind of explain that a little bit, but if you're not a good scrounger and you live in a financially repressed area, meaning if you go to your resale stores and they only have like a bunch of clothes and ripped up kids' toys, you may do better to take your resources elsewhere, specifically walk down to Guitar Center, see what our 100 watt 12-inch speaker bass combo they would sell you. Why is it such a big deal to build a bass amp? Well, any 6-string guitar player can take $20 to $50 any day of the week and do well through something like Craigslist, or getting a deal at a flea market, or pawn shop, to get some kind of starter amp for that price range. If you're a 4-string bass player, that money will get you, if you are lucky enough to find something, what you're going to find is basically a glorified fart machine, because these amplifiers at that price point are unable to properly reproduce low frequencies. They're going to be underpowered, and they're going to have small speakers, which that's the requirement of a proper bass amp, is a hefty cabinet, a hefty actual bass guitar speaker, something over 12 or perhaps 15 inches in diameter, and in that case a powerful amplifier to push that speaker, and a powerful power supply to enable that powerful amplifier to push that powerful speaker in that nice sturdy chassis. So, number one point, the chassis. Well, maybe look at automotive. Those kicker box guys at the flea market are always upgrading, or Craigslist. If that isn't working well for you, maybe you can get a blown bass amp and kind of work with the speaker and the chassis. Replace the electronics. Now, if you're in a corner and the only place to go is to purchase it, I would highly recommend you avoid Parts Express. There's a place called MCM Electronics. MCM Electronics. I recently got a 12 from them. I comparison shopped around, and this 12, it was a bass guitar speaker with a 60-ounce magnet, was $16.95 with $11 shipping to Chicago. And we used that. Recently got a JL Audio, which is an automotive 12-inch cabinet, and the speaker was blown. So I slapped that in there, put a compression driver horn with a crossover that came out of a bookshelf speaker, and then we got a TOA 15-inch speaker with a big horn off Craigslist for $20. So I put a Class D amp board from, it was a cheap one, it was like $7, a 7492, and that's the chip number, but it's a 50 by 2, and we run this off of 2 sealed lead acid batteries, and these, they're supposed to be 12 volts, but they're really more like 13, so you just got to be careful. Again, match your power supply to your load. So if you have 4-ohm speaker, it's going to be different power than if you have an 8-ohm speaker. So just make sure that when you order the amp board, you already know what speakers you have, what the load is going to be, and the power supply. So yeah, speakers, if you get one used, great. If you've got to buy new, MCM Electronics is the way to go. And don't get the cheapest one. Just read the ratings. You'll see what I'm talking about. MCM amps. Sure, Electronics makes really good ones, but you can get the cheap ones. They're so cheap you can almost get both and have one as a backup. I'm going to skip ahead to the power supply. I've been using batteries because we make music at the woods. Again, I have this family band. It's not a joke or pretend thing. We play often. We have a lot of material. Right now we've been playing originals. So yeah, playing outdoors is great. Inside, you got headphones, I'm sweating. I don't really like doing it as much as I do outdoors. It's like jamming outside is. So enough about that. But that's why I tend to run all of my stuff off of batteries. So getting to the chip amps, my old setup was like kind of underpowered on my last video. Typically, you're going to want something, 2x20, 50 to 100 watts. More often, they have stereo boards, so you're going to look for the mono ones, and they're kind of harder to find. If you type in Class D amp board mono, I don't know. However, you come to your own search terms, but the chip numbers that I tend to think are the preferable ones. The 7492, that's a great board, especially the Shure Electronics one. That's what my wife has been running for her bass. We have two 12, or it's a EV12 and then a 10 maybe with horns and crossovers. And then I had built a mixer. So we run the drum machine and her bass through this 50x2 with these two 12s. And that worked good. I mean, we were starting to get really loud, like drummer loud, like regular rock band loud, I mean, really loud. And it was on some of the peaks, it would distort. So I ended up getting a separate rig for the drum machine and a separate rig for the bass. And then we were out, and I ran into this was like incredible. I went to 6 Goodwill stores on my birthday because I had a discount, and I wanted to hit as many stores in that one day using that discount. The first store, we see a GK Neo 210 bass cap for $19.95. I mean, it's 210s with a horn, and it's like, God, all this stuff. You could buy amp and all these different ways to run it in the back. And they still sell that. It's not an old one. It's brand new. It's super ultra lightweight, and it's unbelievably efficient. Like, this cabinet is just insane. And it was $20. The next Goodwill that we went to, they had 2 old ratty cabinets. One was like automotive, like it had like gray carpet on it, and that's fine. But it had a 12 and a horn, $75. And then it had like, somebody had put a JBL sticker on this other tall. It looked like something you stole from your high school gym. And it had a 12 and a horn in it, and they wanted $150 for that because it was taller and it had Kesters. I don't know. I got the good deal that day. So my idea was we've been running these, 212s, and I wanted to get a mono amp for just that 210. So, because what I had done, I had screwed around. I had found a couple more speakers. I got some 10s. I put a 10 in a bucket, like a paint bucket, with a horn, and I tried a 30-watt amp in there, and it wasn't really enough. But I built this. This is a 2-channel mixer. So you put the drum machine in here and the bass in here, and then 30 watts out, because I got a TPA 3116 in here. And for outdoors competing with the band, I did not think that was enough power off of 12 volts. If you were able to run this off a little higher, and these boards are available for $3. So if you're leery about this, this would be a good beginner board. It's $3. What do you have to lose? As far as the power supply goes, you can get any kind of laptop power brick, and typically I find these anywhere from 99 cents to $5. Typically pay about $2.99, $1.99 for them. And what you're looking for is something around 19.5 volts, 3.5 amps or up. I actually got a 26 volt 7 amp power supply. It's a little bit bigger, but it's for a flat screen TV. So any kind of power supply for a big monitor or a flat screen TV, if you read that, that could match up and be a perfect match for your Class D amp board. So that's pretty much my advice on how you would do it. Get whatever cabinet you can. And speaker. I mean, the main thing for me was always the amp. And that's these amp boards. I mean, the TPA 3116, 50x2, 12 to 26 volt board. It's listed at $7.99 here. It's like, I popped that into my guitar amp. And that was absolutely incredibly loud running it at 26 volts. Unbelievable loud. Way too loud. this, which is the 100-watt mono board, through the Gailey and Kruger, the GK Neo 210. I'm going to be testing that out tomorrow. It's kind of late. It's like 2:30 in the morning here, so I'm not going to be testing this. But I wanted to show this off. You know, obviously it's not much to it. Power switch, large LED, and then we have input and output and power. That's it. It's got a fuse. So one thing to consider is you do need a front end. Like, this is just like an amplified speaker. It's just a power amp. So in my case, for the guitar, like, I run a Korg Pandora that has the amp sims and cabinet sims and all that stuff. You kind of need, like, especially for a guitar with all the effects, it's a no-brainer to use something like, you could even use an RP, a Digitech, anything like that is going to work. For a bass, if you have an active bass that uses a 9-volt battery, that has the preamp built in, that runs 9 volts out, line level signal out, excuse me. So you don't need anything. That connection is going to be perfectly matched to this, and whatever your bass is set at is what you're going to hear. Perfectly clean. But if you wanted, like how we do it, we use a Zoom V2, which is a multi-effector, and that has some amp sims and stuff in there. Technically, we don't really need that. I mean, with the full band setup, we don't really run that many effects, but it's nice to have. So you can get away with it. Now, if you weren't worried about money so much, let's say you have the cabinet and the speaker, and you wanted to go more legit, what I would say is look into getting a 3-band active EQ harness. If you go on eBay and you type in bass guitar harness, these things will come up. And if you keep typing around and find the right one, you can get it even cheaper. And what this is, you're supposed to remove the electronics from your guitar, your bass, and put this in there as a 9-volt battery. And then there's bass, mid-range, and treble, and gain. And that, you could very well add that, and that would be like your controls for your amp. You would put that in front of this. And I'm not just talking, I have done that. My guitar amp it's stereo. I run 2 cabinets, and 2x25 initially. All the videos that are up now are 2x25. But I put a 50x2 in there. I got a 100-watt in there now. Just haven't used it yet. If you want to, like in that case, I was talking about running that bass EQ, a single one for your bass amp. If you had a passive bass and you wanted to build a bass amp and you wanted to have the controls and you had a preamp to it, that would be the cheapest way to do it. You could use anything, literally. You could build whatever you want to put in there. I'm talking about the simple, easiest, cheapest way. It cost me $7. Get one of those preamps, $7, $8. And then there's something called a voltage regulator. A 7809 is the model number. So whatever, let's say you have 20 volts or 19.5 coming in, you would split that off and run that to this voltage regulator. Those have 3 legs. So for the input, the power comes in at 20 volts, and it comes out at 9, because it's a 7809. If you got a 7805, it would be 5 volts. But basically, that just drops the voltage down. So then you could run EQ section, your preamp would be powered off the same power supply. So you have one power plug running everything. That's one option for the preamp section of it. Like I said, we use multi-effectors. I don't really worry about that, but it'll be interesting to see how the Shure. This is the. You see, I got the model number here. The 1x100 Class D TPA 3116 Shure AA AB 31184. Really seems weird. Is it a 3118 or is it a 3116? They're calling it the 1x100, and I heard this is a great board. And I've heard, I know Shure Electronics has really great boards. They're expensive. This is $25, where I could get about the same thing. Typically Shure board is like $25, and then you could find them for like $5. The same thing. It might not have the heat sink. Like a lot of the Shure boards have fans on them. They're really nice. So if you were going to be serious about it, but for the smallest rig, like I said, if you really wanted to go Gilligan's Island, you could get a 5-gallon paint bucket with a 10-inch bass speaker, and then go ahead and get yourself the TPA 3118 or the 3116. I would get the 60-watt, the mono. I've heard that's a great chip, great amp board. The thing is that we always want to make sure our power supply is matching our load. So when you go to buy the amp board, read the fine print and maybe look at some other people who are selling it. Sometimes they mix stuff up. Another thing, I look at the capacitors, what they're rated at. If I'm running two 12 volt batteries, but they're really 13.5, that's 27 volts. So if the capacitor on the board is rated at 24, it's going to blow that capacitor. So in that case, I just removed that capacitor and cut in another, like a 35 volt one. But I'm kind of getting a little bit carried away in advanced concepts here. Like I said, the starter rig would be, get a 5-gallon paint bucket, put the 10 in, you just cut the top, and then drill it out, put the speaker in there, and then, you know, maybe a 30 watt, you could run it off the battery, or go ahead and get a laptop power supply, something 19.5 volts. But I think what you're going to find if you start playing around with Class D amps is what you really pay for is the shipping time. They're so cheap. If you're talking about $3 to get this amp, you know, you're really not paying with money, you're paying in time of waiting for that thing to come. 3 weeks from China is a long time to wait. So you want to make sure that you really read through the fine print, make sure you're not making any mistakes. Make sure you're getting the right thing. Really, the mono ones are harder to find. The stereo boards are a little easier. So that's one thing to think of if you have a little bit more money, is having 2 speakers in it and running stereo board, or, you know, put a horn in it and just make sure the horn can handle that wattage. In here I have these a 30 watt chip, which I'm going to get rid of that. I'm just going to run this standalone as a mini mixer to run the drum machine and combine the bass. So it'll basically be like a little stack. I'll be sitting next to each other, and then we'll be able to have the single GK cabinet running, handling both the drum machine and the bass guitar with a little stripped down patio rig. We're going to sit out there and barbecue, grab the 210, grab the drum machine. And I've got plenty of different Class D guitar amps. I got something called the Capital, I can grab that, that's an all-in-one. And I got my more advanced modular setup that's like rack mount. So it's pretty cool stuff. If you want a demo, let me know. I can actually do a demo of this. If you're just curious to hear what the Class D band amp sounds like, of all of us playing as a band, I've got 8 music videos up that I recently put up within the last couple of months. Just take a look. They're all instrumental songs, and it's us playing outdoors in the thumbnail, so it shouldn't be too hard for you to find. But here's a huge thumbs up for Class D amp technology. Thank you for joining me. Petey Twofinger signing out. Peace.